As I promised and I gave the opening presentation this morning, I want to talk more specifically about why we're going to need to price new capacity. We need a huge amount of new capacity, but we basically two reasons. We can't afford to do it with the existing funding sources, so it's going to have to be priced for that reason. But also, we're going to get a lot more value out of it if we price it. Use pricing to better manage it. Okay, so value pricing, which we pioneered with hot lanes in California, we know it works. If you can vary the price in response to how much traffic is trying to use the road, you can smooth things out, and you actually get much greater throughput. When congestion gets down into level of service F, you actually are only pumping through maybe 800 to 1,200 vehicles per lane per hour. With value pricing, you can get it up to 1,800 or 1,900 vehicles per lane per hour during rush hour. So you actually get more throughput. You get more value out of these costly, expensive lanes rather than letting them break down as happens under normal conditions in free lanes. And then the revenues mean that you can finance the project because you have a predictable revenue stream. You can actually get them built now when we need them and not someday maybe pie in the sky. Next. So what types? There's a whole array. Hot lanes, which give a special break to carpoolers. Express toll lanes, in which basically everybody except maybe emergency vehicles and buses pays the market toll. Express toll networks means a whole interconnected network of these lanes. Truck-only toll lanes, as Rosa introduced. Brand new beltways that could be as entire toll roads using value pricing, and missing links in freeway systems. Those are all among the categories where we need to look at price capacity. Next. So hot lanes, first step. I think Rosa's already explained that. We don't really need to, I think you all understand what these are and why this is it's a huge advance over HOV lanes. And it's something that every metro area in the United States should be doing, and a great many already are. Next. So it offers precise flow control. There's two different ways so far that we are doing this. In I-15, which is in San Diego, where they have reversible hot lanes, they're using an actual real-time algorithm that is constantly monitoring traffic flow, and every 6 minutes it adjusts the price up or down. And the price is displayed on a variable message sign before you make the decision to get on. And so that's one way. 91 express lanes, which was the first quasi-real-time. Well, because it's not every second. It's but every 6 minutes is pretty good. 91 express lanes uses instead a published rate schedule, which they adjust regularly. And interestingly enough, they don't have a public utility commission or a city council that has to hold a public hearing and debate whether the toll should go up or down. They have an algorithm too. It's on automatic pilot. The board of Orange County Transportation Authority voted that this system would be in place, and they don't have to deal with it anymore. Anytime, I think it's a 12-week period, any one of the time slots, which are hour by hour, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. If you go 12 weeks and the level of traffic gets to the point where it's starting to break down from level of service C to level of service D, then if that condition has manifested itself for 12 weeks, you automatically notch the toll up at the end of that period to the next highest level. So it goes up another 25 cents or something for that time slot. And likewise, it can also go down, although it's virtually never gone down, because that's a very, very, very high growth corridor. Because it's people who can't afford to live in Orange County, which is extremely expensive, so they move inland to Riverside County and then commute from Riverside County, Bedroom County, into Orange County, and that just is explosive growth, and that's why, so they're doing very, very well. And those two lanes in each direction on the price lanes are 1/3 of it's a total of 6 lanes, 2 of which are priced. With a 33% of the physical capacity, they pump through 49% of the flow at the busiest peak hours, thanks to the benefits of the pricing. So this is a tremendous benefit. Next. Okay, so this is just a picture. Many of you have probably seen this picture before, but this shows during the eastbound afternoon going home, there's the regular lanes, and here are the express lanes. Now, the one thing you also want to notice, critics call hot lanes Lexus lanes. Do you see any Lexuses in there? There's a low-end Toyota Corolla. There's a pickup truck. These are These are people, 80% of these people use it, as Rosa said, once or twice a week when they really need to get somewhere on time. And it's, my God, is it worth it to pay $5 or $6 to get to your kid's soccer game, to get the kids out of daycare without paying a $12 late fee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of reasons. 20% of the people are the Lexus drivers that you don't see there who use it every day, either because the boss pays for it or because they can afford it and it's worth it. Next. And so this is just a little recap, a map showing, and I didn't get a chance to update it, but actually Salt Lake City should be added. They've just opened their first hot lane a couple months ago. So this is spreading around the country. It's not every place it's needed yet, and usually it's only a single facility so far instead of, we don't have any networks yet, but that's coming. Next. So here's a point I alluded to in the presentation this morning. There's a great synergy between bus rapid transit and price lanes. I mean, a lot of transit agencies, if they can't do rail, they want to do exclusive busways. But exclusive busways, incredibly wasteful, a very expensive right-of-way and very expensive pavement. If you can do a bus every 5 minutes, you're doing real good in most real-world metro areas. A bus every 5 minutes leaves that concrete empty. You know, you can bowl in that corridor between buses. So the smart thing to do is to sell all the rest of that capacity. Fill it up, but not to the point where it reduces the speeds. Fill it up to the point of level of service C, where you're getting the 1,800 or 1,900 vehicles per lane per hour. Make good use of it. And then you have the best of all worlds, because you've got all the revenue flowing in from these people that are paying to use the lane. And you've got the high-quality rapid express bus service as well. Houston is the first place. They're rebuilding the Katy Freeway, widening it, adding 4 managed lanes in the center. They will have this San Diego-type pricing algorithm. They've got a deal. Houston Metro basically has the rights to 25% of the capacity for buses and super HOV vehicles. And the Toll Road Authority, the equivalent of Rosa's agency, commits to keep the price indefinitely high, as high as it needs to be to maintain level of service C forever. And Metro agrees to raise the vehicle occupancy level as high as necessary. It'll start out at HOV3 for the HOVs that are allowed, but they plan to go to HOV4 whenever they need to make sure that they don't interfere with the traffic flow for their part of their 25%. Next. Okay, so that's and it's a public-public partnership. Many of these things have a private sector partner that builds and operates, but in this case, it's the public toll road agency, the transit agency, and TxDOT, which has the overall coordination for the expansion projects. And it's a great example. Reason's report called Virtual Exclusive Busways, which is on our website, has the actual agreement signed among these agencies and gives you the details of how they did it if you want to use it as an inspiration. Next. So the implications here is that the transit agency doesn't get any. Transit agencies always want to grab a piece of money. They would like to get a piece of toll revenues from hot lanes, but usually there's no revenues available for them to get. Certainly if you have to build new lanes, there's not going to be any revenues for them to get, but they still get a great deal because they get a free guideway. They get the free equivalent of an exclusive busway. They don't have to pay for it. They get to use it free. And they get all this great capacity. The Federal Transit Administration has approved this, a very important precedent. And so this will be something that will be a huge benefit indefinitely on it. It's sustainable long term. Next. Now, we did a comparison in this VEB study of looking at a 500 lane mile network. Actually, we did a number of sort of gross level feasibility studies in about 15 or 20 metro areas. And $4 to $6 billion is what a 500 lane mile network realistically would cost to build today. If you use the latest FTA new starts figures on light rail and heavy rail projects, costs per route mile, 250 route miles is equivalent to 500 lane miles. You need a track in each direction. $31 billion if you do a light rail system, $38 billion if you do a heavy rail system. There is just no comparison. And the rail only provides rail journeys that people have to get to in a car or a bus in order to get on the rail. Whereas the VEB network, the same bus that runs long haul on the network can also pick people up in the neighborhood, then get on to the long haul ride, and then get off and drop off people at all sorts of different destinations. Single seat ride, no, not for everybody. Some people will have to transfer buses, but it's much, much more versatile than the rail system, in addition to costing a tiny fraction as much. So there's I'm going to be making a presentation on this to FTA next week. I may not get out of there alive, but we'll see. Next. So now, where can we add new capacity? And I mentioned in the thing this morning, we can go up, we can go under, and we can reuse non-traditional rights-of-way. And I would just give you a few quick examples of these. Okay, here is an example that Peter Samuel has discovered in Los Angeles when they built the Alameda Corridor, which consolidated rail lines between the ports of LA down here and the rail yards just south of downtown LA. It left the former rail lines, like this one, BNSF, without any real purpose. And so, of course, the transit agencies all want to somehow build rail things there. But this one, from here to here, basically provides a route a new route to get to downtown LA that the freeway system doesn't offer. And it's not wide enough for a freeway, but it's wide enough for 4 lanes that can be variably priced lanes and provide this great kind of a new corridor. And there's an extremely creative example of taking a right-of-way. Rights-of-way in urban areas are incredibly scarce and precious resources. We really need to look hard for where there are things like this. Next. Here's another example that Peter discovered. This is the Trinity River in Dallas, and they are proposing in this floodplain to do a new parkway type of limited access road. And again, there's creative use of right-of-way. In Orange County, California, there's been a proposal for 15 years that's being looked at again to build an elevated toll road above a concrete flood channel of the Santa Ana River. I mean, there's a right-of-way. It's badly needed. It would fill in a missing link in the freeway system. Very controversial, may or may not ever get built, but that's another example. Next. And here, I just drove on this 2 weeks ago in Tampa. This was just opened, built above an existing toll road. Those are 6-foot wide pillars, reversible tolled express lanes. They use these precast segments that are just built off-site and hauled into place. The cost of this is about $13 million per lane mile. Not for elevated construction. That's reasonably affordable, and this is an enormous addition of capacity to the system, precisely where it's needed, and using existing right-of-way. And this is a bigger version of the picture I showed you this morning of the sound tube built. I've driven on this too in Melbourne, Australia, on the Melbourne City Link, which is a private sector, all private sector, long-term concession toll road that filled in missing links again. And this particular part of it is elevated, goes past high-rise condos. And they figured, oh, the noise thing was going to be a big, big problem. And so the private sector innovated, came up with this idea. It's neat looking. It's become something that people like and think of as a real asset. Next. And here is in a report that we did again, that Peter wrote for Reason Foundation, an engineer that we discovered has this concept for taking an existing freeway and rebuilding it with some of the lanes double-deck size only for autos, with perfectly acceptable clearance heights for autos. And buses and trucks would use the other lanes, and you can almost double the capacity in the same footprint, the same right-of-way. You know, nobody's ever tried to do this yet, but there's no reason in principle why you couldn't. Next. Here's another example of creative use of tunnels. This is Sydney, Australia, and all of these dashed lines are tunnels, again, almost all developed as private long-term concessions that provide connectivity to make possible tolled motorways to go through some very, very difficult areas. This one I rode on. This goes to the airport from downtown Sydney. And these make feasible major improvements in capacity that would otherwise have just been politically unacceptable because the land use impacts would have been way too great that you just couldn't have built them. Next. Go ahead. And this may be my final example. I love to use this one. This is the Paris Ring Road, A86. And this is a missing link that has been missing for 30 to 35 years for understandable reasons. What's here? Versailles, the palace at Versailles. No one would accept a major motorway going through the middle of Versailles for completely understandable reasons. So the private sector, private company, Cofiroute, that operates one of the major toll road networks in France, came up with the idea, on unsolicited proposal to the French government, a toll tunnel all the way through here, and it's under construction now. I have not been there to see it. I've seen presentations and loads of photos next. And in order to, because excavation is one of your biggest costs, and the bigger your cross section, the more costly it is, they came up with this idea for cars only lanes, double deck. So this is actually the first implementation of that concept of squeeze. So they squeeze in 6 lanes in the space that would otherwise only accommodate 2 full-size lanes big enough for trucks with normal type of clearance height. Incredible innovation to squeeze that in, and it's, as I say, it's about 2/3 built now. Next. So conclusions are first that value price toll lanes means we're going to get a lot more value for the dollars, and it means we're going to have the ability to spend, to have the revenue available now, not 20 or 30 years from now, to add important capacity. A network of price lanes can provide the guideway, the fixed guideway for a region-wide express bus system that is a completely superior alternative to a region-wide rail system of any sort, and offers all kinds of other benefits to motorists in addition. We have a lot of creative ways of adding new capacity that haven't much even been thought of, partly because they're expensive and because the money isn't there, but with value price tolling, we can raise a lot more revenue than people have realized. Not necessarily pay for the 100% of the cost of these things, but pay for a very large fraction of the cost of these kinds of expensive, innovative solutions. And that is a tremendously important thing that we need to get transportation planners, editorial writers, and others to understand. There's a lot more options than we imagine, and I think that's the end. Thank you very much.